Hey everybody, I'm Amanda with DevExpress and welcome to 14.1 Launch Week and today's webinar, What's New in Reporting and Dashboards for 14.1 with Analytics Program Manager Seth Juarez. In today's webinar, you'll see our new ASP.NET Report Designer and all the capabilities included in the DevExpress Dashboard, including our new MVC Dashboard Viewer. Also, there will be a live Q&A. Seth does take questions throughout the broadcast, so feel free to enter them at any time in the questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel. Now, I also want to mention that when you leave the webinar, you will see a very short survey, so please take a second to give us your feedback. We really appreciate it. Now, speaking of feedback, I do have two poll questions for you, so here they are. The first one is real easy. Have you downloaded 14.1? You can select one of the following: yes, not yet, but planning to, or I don't know why you would choose this, but not planning to.
Oh,
So it
boo.
looks like
Why is that even on there, Amanda?
because 3%.
No.
Yes.
Well, after this webinar, they're going to be like, you know what? I should have clicked on the not yet but planning to.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
It looks like 63% are yes, 37% are planning to, and 2% not planning to. All right.
All right.
And then our second poll question is, which would help if I launched it? Which DevExpress product do you currently use? And again, you can select one of the following: reporting, dashboards, or both. So it looks like
I should have put none on there too, huh?
It looks like 40% reporting, 12% dashboards, and 48% both. Awesome.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, everybody. So thank you for your feedback. And of course, thank you so much for joining us. I will now hand things over to Seth Juarez.
All right. Well, it looks like Dave has introduced a third poll question. Is Seth going to say pal all the time again? I have upgraded. I am now going to say kapow, so that there's going to be some extra chutzpah about it. All right. Well, my name is Seth Juarez. I'm the Analytics Program Manager here at DevExpress. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our premier analytics products. Feel free to ask questions at any time during the presentation. I'm happy to stop. This is scheduled to run about an hour, and I'll take questions, obviously. So we might go over just a bit, but I hope not. I have a lot of good stuff to talk about. One of the things that I wanted to emphasize is really I advise a group, a couple of groups of product teams that build specific products, like, for example, dashboard, reporting, charts, spreadsheet core. I mean, I get to advise them. And so what we've done is we've come up with a mission statement when it comes to what we want to do with analytics. And I want to show that to you. I don't know if I've talked about this before, but it's something that's sort of ingrained into what we do. But the key idea is this. Our mission is to simplify the process of working and understanding data. And so that is our mission. We're going to simplify. We're going to make processes easier. And the whole focus of everything is data. And so that's really what we're trying to do. You're going to start to see a little bit of that flavoring in some of the releases we are doing right now. All right, or in 14.1. So this brings us to 14.1. What are some of the things that, obviously, I'm not going to show you, I'm not going to have slides for everything. I'm not going to be able to show you everything simply because there's just not enough time. And this, again, is going to be recorded for posterity so that you can take a look at this stuff later on. All right, so let's first talk about some of the new bits in reporting. We have a fantastic data access model that we've sort of put into our reporting that makes reporting so much easier, so much simpler, and cuts down the process of building reports, the process by a great deal of steps. We've also added a couple of things. One is a gauge control. I'll show you that a little bit. It's a fantastic little control. We also added a web end user designer. I think that's probably one of the more interesting things. But I also want to interject. I know Paul yesterday got into spreadsheets just a bit in his WinForms webinar, but there is something that we've added for reporting when it comes to actually creating spreadsheets that are based upon data that are in a database, for example, or anywhere else. And then finally, I'll show you a little bit of the report server, and we've added a new guest account. I'll tell you what you can use that for and how I would use it at least. Obviously, it is up to you to use it however you choose. Next, let's get into dashboards. For dashboards, we've added server mode, drastically cutting down the amount of processing time. Because if you're using the large amounts of data, the old mode was that we would sort of bring the data down and then the processing would happen in memory. But if there's a lot of data, then that's going to be problematic. And so server mode offloads all of that type of calculations over to the database. And let's be honest here, my friends. We've got 50 years of database theory and optimization that we can just rely on if we can, and we should. We've also added bubbles and pies in the GeoPoint map, and may I add, and this is seriously important, I keep forgetting to put this in the slide, we've also added clustering, automatic clustering, and I'll show you why that's an important thing. A couple of little minor things. We've added series options that so changes you can make to charts. I know one of the major asks for our dashboard is more access to the underlying components. We're starting to surface those a little bit more. And then item conversion for creating dashboards quickly. We've also added API enhancements to the dashboard that allow you to sort of trap any kind of event. And so hopefully we'll get some time to do that. I might just show you like what's in there and give you some motivation about what you can do. And then finally, we'll look at the MVC Dashboard extension because we know many of you in ASP.NET land love to use MVC, and so we've created a wrapper or an extension is a better word for it for our MVC, for our dashboard component. All right, demo time, because I think that's what matters most. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and open up this project. It's called What's New 14.1. And when we did our 24-hour deal, I had more time to motivate stuff. I don't have that much time this time around because I'm condensing a lot. So what I've done is I've sort of pre-made some projects. Obviously, I'll show you what I did with them. And so you'll be able to see the code. It would be fantastic. All right, so what I'm going to do is let me motivate reports just for a second. The way I like to think about reports is like so. So I'm gonna draw squares because everybody knows in computer science that if you don't have squares with labels in them, it's not real computer science. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how I see reports, not reports, but reports. So let's just say this is a client, and then this is web. One of the things that I think are important is a notion of reusable reports across multiple sort of platforms. So with reports, there's sort of an interesting sort of thing that there's a number of ways to think about it. And I'm going to draw the universal database symbol. So the first thing to think about reports is where does the data come from? The next has to do with how do we lay the report out. So that's the layout. And the last is the presentation. So again, we have number one, we have where does the data come from? Number two, how do we lay it out? And then number three on this side, where do we surface the report? It's a really good way to think about it. So notice that in a software speak, we can have sort of our data access layer in its own assembly if we want, or we can directly bind to a database, which is what I'm going to do. But the notion that reports should be separate from the presentation layer, I think, is important. And so notice now when I'm at the reports, when I'm in the reports section, it's in its own assembly. This is a class library. Notice it's completely empty, nothing in there. All right. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to start adding stuff. So there's two ways to add reports. You can do that there, or you can use our DevExpress item thing. I'm just going to go to add a new item. Notice I can go to reporting, and I can choose report wizard, and we're going to build the canonical Northwind products report. Hopefully that works. So I'm going to call it my products report. Okay. Notice that there are a number of options that you will automatically be given. One is if you want to create a data-bound report. This sort of takes you through the whole process of laying the report out, etc. You can build a label report or an inherited report. After all, reports pretty much are classes that are hydrated with the layout and the data to create the output. I'm going to create an empty report so we can see how to do this from scratch. All right, so here is our report. Notice that we have a number of things that right away you can see are just sort of there. This has to do with the way our report structure is laid out. I love to look at the Report Explorer. It's probably one of the coolest things because it shows you sort of how the report is laid out. So this is the detail band. It's probably the most important band. It's the band that repeats. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to bind, and this is sort of the new bits that are going to come into 14.1. So I'm going to add a report data source, and notice that you can choose Entity Framework. I won't do that here. Let me just hit Next so you can see what's going on. But what Entity Framework binding does, it lets you sort of map directly to Entity Framework. Notice that you need the Entity Framework data context. I don't have one in this project, so that's why it's empty, but you can see that if you did, that you would indeed have data context. I'm going to choose database. Notice that I already have a connection in here. I'm just going to make a new one so you can see how to do that. So I'm going to hit next. And notice now, and this is the cool bits. Let me zoom in here so you can get a feeling for just the sort of the range of data that we can connect to. Now this is just for reporting off of a database. But our particular reporting suite can bind to an IEnumerable of T. The other thing that's important that I don't think there's any other reporting suites that do this anywhere, is that we also respect object hierarchy. In other words, if you have a data set with two tables that have a relationship between them, like a master detail, we don't require the flattening of the data a priori in order to do the master detail reporting, and then sort of smushing things together in software. What we have is we have the ability to sort of bind directly to the structure. So say, for example, you have an IEnumerable of T, and in your IEnumerable of T, the T object has an IEnumerable of K. What we do is we will respect that hierarchy and allow you to do reporting off of that. All right, we're going to go to SQL Express here, and I'm going to use Windows Auth, and I'm just going to choose DX Support as the database. All right, I'm going to hit next. I'm not going to save the connection because, or maybe I should, I don't know. Let me hit next. There you go. And then this is the beef, right? I have been asked countless times, Seth, how do I just do a report with a query? Well, now you can. Before you would have to sort of go through the process of building your DAL and then give it the query, but now you can just sort of put the query right in there. There was a quick question about SAP SQL Anywhere. I don't see it in here. You can try using the custom connection string, for example, for ODBC, and it should work. We do, however, have SAP Sybase and SAP Sybase Advantage in there. Good question. All right. Okay, so let's run the query designer here. And notice that this query designer, very inspired. We were inspired by the. Oh man, it looks like I fast clicked too quickly, and I didn't change to Northwind. That's what I wanted. That's why it was a little weird. So here is the data. So again, let me reiterate that if you did not see the particular database provider that you have in there? The answer is, for anything else, yes, you can bind to anything, anything, down to an IEnumerable of T. So let me give you an example. Say you have an old school Fox Pro database that has a number of records. If you can pull those out with C#, you can say report.dataSource equals, and you can do a list of T of the items that you pulled out of your Fox Pro database. Great question. So another example would be if you use an Hibernate, you'd be able to do whatever mechanism you have for pulling data, and then you would just say report.dataSource equals, and then you'd pull the Hibernate records out. All right, so let me go to categories here, and I'm just going to straight drop these things here. Notice also when it comes to filtering, you can do filtering. So let me hit the apply. Notice that this is indeed server-side filtering. There is something called a filter string that does client-side filtering, but now you can do server-side filtering to your heart's content. In fact, later on, you can also use parameterized server-side filtering. I won't talk about that here because it's a lot of the scope, but you can do that as well. All right, so let me hit OK. Let me hit finish. And now you're going to see in our field list, boom, you're going to see the actual data items that we want. Notice they're all in there. So I'm just going to quick drop something in here, and let's hit preview. And notice that our reports are off and running super fast. So now the question becomes this. I want to do a master detail to do categories and products. So how does one actually do that? Well, let me show you how to do that. We're going to go to the SQL data source, and we're going to add a query. Let's run the query designer. And I want to use products, so I'll just pull those all down, and I'll hit OK. Then I'll hit finish. Notice that we've added the query. So let's add a detail report. But notice that it doesn't recognize the relationship. So how do we do that? Well, let's go to the Report Explorer here. Let's right-click, go to the commands, and notice that because there's more than one query, there's now a Manage Relations. So since we're going to be doing reporting from categories down to products, we are going to match the relationship here. Notice that we're pretty clever, and we see where those relationships might be based upon naming. So we automatically add that for you. If it's not in there the way you want, notice that you can select your own columns and do the mapping that way. But I'm going to leave it there. This is new, but this is, to me, beautiful. Remember, our mission is to simplify the process of working and understanding data. This is beautiful. This is you can understand this pretty well. In fact, I didn't even do anything. I just said add it, and it even knew where to go. Because one of our principles is to sort of do the right thing for you on your behalf and then let you easily change it if we've made a mistake. All right, so now that I hit OK, you'll see that there is this category products relation over here. And so now I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to insert detail reports, and I'm going to do category products, and we can do product name, quantity per unit, units in stock, units on order, unit price, and now we have successfully made this report. Not an attractive report, if I do say so myself. So let's spend a couple of seconds making things a little bit nicer, because that's what we're all about. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert these guys to labels, move this over. So you're going to see that, like, as I do this, I'm going to go super fast, just because, I mean, this is like watching paint dry. Amanda, I think, has literally fallen asleep. You know what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, that's, So now I've gotten this in here. Let me go ahead and set the properties of this to squeeze so that it will fit in there. And so now notice that just with a little bit of not much work, I'm starting to make this a lot better. So now let's go here to let's go to this, and we're going to do a little band. I think what we did is we did on the category price, we did product name. We also did quantity per unit, in stock, on order, unit price. I'll bring those guys over here. And we can take a little bit. By the way, do you see what we're doing here? Notice that it's sort of just magically things are just happening, and there's not a lot of work that I'm doing. Like, for example, the field name, we've automatically seen that it's been camel cased. And so we figured, hey, if that's what you guys want to do, maybe probably what you want. So that's, I think, the cool thing. So let's go back over here and let's make sure that we have the font. Let's underline. There you go. Let's get a little bold action in there. And let's get the font size up to 12. There you go. You know that's too big, so let's go back to 10. And now let's start to size things a little bit better. Price isn't that big, so I'll do that. On order shouldn't be that big because it's just a number. In stock, not so big, so I'll just do that. We'll leave lots of room for product name and unit. And now notice the intuitive snapping that happens when I move stuff around. Okay. Okay. Now to polish things up, I'm going to go over here to our report controls. Oh, there they are. Notice there's a number of controls already in there. I've been just magically doing the binding with the data. And so notice that that's another thing. You can also drop labels and drag stuff on there. But what I want to do is I want to put 1-page info, 2-page info, put that right over here, put this right over here as well. We are going to make sure this is right justified. And then here we're going to change this to current date and time. All right, so there is my report. Notice it is pretty cool. Well, you know what I'm going to do? Let me give a slight sort of indentation so that you get a feel for that this thing is good. And these two, I think this feels like it needs to be moved over to the bottom left. And so I will do that. In addition to that, I'm going to make sure that the alignment of this is middle. These guys, I think, are good this way. All right. Here is our information. Last thing, not last but not least, this is a number, so this is some currency, and so we'll go ahead and set those, and I'll make this centered so that you get a feel. Okay. There you go. Here is our beautiful report made pretty simply. Okay. All right, Amanda, any questions that I can take real quick?
Can I use only the query designer in ASP.NET?
The query designer. So there have been some questions that are similar. The one is like, hey,
Yes.
can I? John Pierre has one. Can I reuse the query designer? Yes. The intent was to actually in this release have a component in the toolbox under analysis. And I'm telling you this. We didn't finish it, but we were going to have. I think under data analytics we were going to have the actual wizard, so you could drop it on and use it. We didn't get to it. I am pushing to have it in the next minor. We don't have one for ASP.NET yet, but I will tell you that our report server product is going to be using these kinds of data access strategies, and so I'm hoping in the near future to have something similar as well. Any other questions?
Yeah, I don't know if you answered this from Scott. Will the query designer work within Hibernate?
So notice that the query designer is mapped directly to the database. We are working on in 14.2 a mapping to objects, and so maybe that will be in there. I'm not sure. At least what we might. I think what I'll suggest that we do is provide a way to, using inheritance or some kind of interface, be able to map to any kind of model that you want. Good question. Any other questions?
Um, can I use views to create master detail reports?
Yes. In fact, I think you saw here that I'm using actual queries to do master detail reports, right? All you would do is you would map to the view instead of the query, and then you would relate them somehow. Good question. Anything else?
Can I do conditional formatting?
Yes, I won't get into it here because there's not time to, but yes, you can do conditional formatting. I'll show you where it is. We have something called formatting rule sheets that allow you to add rules based upon specific conditions. You can see that there. And then each control, so let's say, for example, I go to this control here. Notice that there are formatting rules that can be applied from the rule sheet. Yes. Any other questions?
Yeah, I'll give you one more. Is it possible to use data from different databases in the same report?
Yes, you can. It becomes a little tricky, but you can do it. So, for example, notice that let me squirrel this away and let me add a detail report that's unbound. Notice that this detail report can actually come from a whole new data source. And so you could imagine having a detail report. So imagine an empty detail, right? In fact, you can even set the visibility to false, empty detail, and then you can have a number of detail reports that bind to disparate data sources. Now, my suggestion is not to do that. We definitely can, but it would be better if you do if you do the data aggregation for complex reports in some sort of data access layer, so that you will have more fine-grained control over the speed of it. Because again, for reporting, we're only doing pure fetches. All right. Great questions. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to, let's do this. We have a gauge control. I haven't showed it to you, so let's do this. Let's burn a gauge control into this thing right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert these guys to labels so that I can work with them separately. Next, what I'm going to do under category products is I'm going to add a calculated field. So we're going to edit this calculated field, and we're going to call it the calc diff. And what I want to do is I want to edit the expression. What I want to do is I want to have a sense for inventory. Inventory. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to fields, and I'm going to go to units in stock minus units on order. That's the field. So I'm going to take these out. No, wait, I didn't want to do that. So let me Control Z. Let me make this a little bit smaller. I'm going to change this to diff. Move this over. And I'm going to take these ones out. Now I'm going to take the calc diff, and I'm going to put it right here, remembering that I think this is supposed to be text alignment. I'm sorry, it's in the center. There's a reason why I'm doing this. You'll see in a second why. So this is the diff. So in this, for example, for Chai, we have a lot left in stock. For Chang, we have more on order than we have in stock. And so that's sort of an interesting thing. Wouldn't it be great? Hold on, let me see. We have a lot of room on the units, so I'm going to get some more room here, if you don't mind, so that I can move this over. Okay. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I am going to put a gauge right in here. Okay. So let's go to the toolbox, and let's take the XR gauge, and let me drop it on there. Right away, you're like, uh-oh, it doesn't fit. I know, we'll make it fit. So there's this. There's that. Notice that it's really tiny, but I'm going to use the linear gauge. Very good. Let's use the flat dark. You know, I'm going to take the price out, because let's just say that we're more interested in the actual. We're more interested in the inventory. So say this is an inventory report. So now we can do some binding. The actual value that we want to use lives here. Notice that calculated fields can participate in the binding. Notice that we want to be at 0 for inventory's sake. The minimum is going to be minus, I don't know, let's do 100. You can also do binding here for that, and then you can do 100 here. Notice that if we're at 0, that's great. If we're not, we're going to be sort of on the other side. Oh, that's it. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to rebuild. So let me rebuild because we just added that, and then we hit preview. Very good. And so now notice that you have a visual representation of stuff that looks actually pretty good. Let me go to the gauge itself. And notice that you have a number of properties that you can set when it also comes to formatting rules. For example, say we wanted to show only if there's a negative one. You could totally do that. Notice you can change the minimum and maximum. You can change padding, size, etc. I mean, there's tons of stuff that you can do, including the styles. And I didn't talk about that too much because we don't have time for it. But notice that there we have a really good inventory. So notice that where the red line sort of goes over 100, we have a stocking problem. We have too much Sasquatch ale. It's probably time to do a fire sale. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a page break after this so that we have our really fantastic report, one per page. All right. Now notice that we probably don't need this because the diff is sort of intrinsically built into this. And what I can do is I can go from minus, let's do 150, and then this can be 150 as well. All right, so let's go preview, and there is our gauge. All right, any questions?
Hey, Seth. From Prem, can I use components in the end user report designer? I haven't seen it in Report Explorer.
I don't know what you mean, but all of these components are available in the end user report designer for Windows. There are some that are not available on the web end user designer, and I'll get into that next. I'll take one more question and then I'll move on.
From Vernon, does the user require the report server product to use the reports that we design?
No. Notice that the report server product is sort of like everything that everyone's always asked about how to do. We just sort of built that. It's the perfect product for managing and storing reports, users, data models, and schedules. But notice that what I'm showing you is completely divorced from that. It's its own thing. And so imagine you could theoretically build your own report server using extra reports. I don't suggest it because it's in violation of our end user license agreement, particularly section 6, where it says you can't build any products. I know I've got this one a lot. You cannot build any products that compete with our own products. So for example, if you build your own report server with DevExpress tools, you can't get better than us, and so when you use us to fight against us, it's literally like thumb wrestling yourself. You're just going to get hurt. Have you ever tried thumb wrestling yourself? Yeah.
What do you think I do during your webinar?
Oh, right. Wait, that was a sad comment. Sad. All right. Let's move on because I need to show you how to do reports. Now, usually if I had more time, I would motivate this demo by going into, let me show you how to do viewers in Windows and then editors in Windows. But I'm going to elide that for now. I did it during the 24-hour thing. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a new web project to actually preview the report. So let me go to add new project. We're going to go to web and use the template gallery, and we're going to call this our web report viewer. Okay, we're going to use an empty web forms application because that's what I want to use, and then I will hit create project. And while this is loading, because it does take a little bit of time, any other questions?
Yes. So from Richard, so of course you can set the gauge so that negative values show red and positive show green. Yes.
I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. This is the first time I've used the gauge control inside of reporting. So there probably is a lot of customizations that you can do. My best guess is that you can do it in the before print event. Great question. However, the other thing that you can do is you can do conditional formatting in order to sort of surface those. I'm pretty sure that can work too. If not, again, if there's something that I wasn't able to answer, it's because I just don't know. I'm not going to try to. I'm not a marketing guy. I'm a product guy, and so I'll just tell you I don't know. Let me look into it. So send me an email so we can come up with a sample to do that. All right, so the solution built. So that's the only question I was able to take at that time. All right, let's go to Report Viewer. Ignore these other things. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to add a viewer. Well, no, first I need to add a reference to the actual report. So, boom, there it is. The other thing is that there are a number of references that are sort of built in. When we did the reporting, we need to make sure that those references are also available in the web viewer. Notice that we're adding them there. There they are. Next, what we can do is we can add a new web form. We'll call it the viewer. And I'm going to go to the toolbox, and I'm going to drop the ASPX document viewer onto the design surface. All right, so there it is. We'll go to design time. Notice that we've sort of, before we used to have all sorts of different, you need to drag on the toolbar, and then you need to drag on that. Well, we figured if there's parameters or bookmarks, then you probably want to show them. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to load up a local report. Notice that this is the products report that we just built. This is interesting. Remote reporting has to do primarily with what if you want a report to connect to a service or the report server itself. You can totally do that. It's fantastic. So if you have the report server backend running on a different server, notice that you can use your own programs to sort of white label the reports that come out of report server. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to set this as the startup page, and then we're going to run this puppy and see what happens. Uh-oh, something happened. I don't think that I created the actual binding. One thing that I forgot to do is we have this connection string. I don't think I have it here. So there's connection strings. Let me add it here. Yes, I do want to stop it. All right, so I've added a connection string. Let's hope that that fixes it. It did. I was right. It was a connection string problem. I fixed it. By the way, here's the report that we just made, visualized on the interwebs. Let's do something. Let's do something a little crazy here. Let's go to the viewer itself, and what we're going to do is let me do it this way. So I'm going to add a new web form. We're going to call it the editor here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the viewer. I'm going to go to the source. Why is this pinged in there? Oh, it's because it's running. And I'm going to put a little link here. ahref equal editor. So this is so that we can open the editor. So now let's go to the editor itself. And let me go to the toolbox and let me drop on a report designer. Okay, so let's go to design mode here, and let's go to the actual component. Well, no, I didn't mean to go to design mode. I wanted to go to the code so that we can tell the report designer how to load up, what to load up. So AXPX report designer.open report, a new product report. Oh, no, I did not want to generate that. Why did I do that? So what I want to do is I want to say using reports, and now I can say new, I think I called it, products report. Now, right away when I do this, you're going to notice some of the limitations in our end user designer when it comes to the actual editor. I'll talk about those briefly. This is a community technology preview of our editor. I'm going to click here. Notice how fast it is, though. Boom. Right? So right here, hopefully you notice this. We do recognize the XR gauge there, but notice that we're not visualizing it. We're working on it. A number of other ones that I think I'll have to F11 here to get the full effect. A number of other ones, for example, that you will not see. Oh, I think it looks like we can work with the XR gauge. Good. But there's others that we can't. Like, for example, a chart or a pivot grid. Any complex bound control, we're still working on getting that to work. By the way, how much time do I have? Oh, I gotta hurry up. Okay, so there is our end user designer. Let me stop this here real quick and show you how to actually capture when the editor has changed the report. So let me go to the event and let me go to the save report layout, and let me just set a breakpoint here so you can see what it is that it's doing. Editor here. Very nice here. There is a save button here. Notice that we trap the event, and what you can do is you can say e.report layout, and you can save the bits out however you want. Seriously, super simple. Alrighty, so that is reporting in a nutshell. Well, that's what end user reporting. Now, because I'm running out of time, let me tell you about the reports over guest account. We've added a new account called the guest account, which is not active by default. The guest account is simply an account for report server that allows you to log in without a password. So, for example, if you want to just let everyone look at reports, you can use the guest account. It's not authenticated. It is authenticated to the guest account, but there's no password to log in. Last but not least, let me set this as a startup project. I don't see set as startup project. Oh, because I'm running. So let's go to WinExcel and let's set this as the startup project. Come on, where are you? You know what? I am just going to start a new instance of it. Okay, here's our spreadsheet. What I've done is I've already dragged stuff on. Well, I probably should show you because you're going to be like, hey, how did you do that? And I hate it when people don't show me how they do stuff. You know, it's kind of bothersome. So here is the main form. It's just a regular ribbon form. What I've done is I've already dragged on the spreadsheet control, but you'll also notice that in the smart tag for the spreadsheet control, you can add a field list panel and mail merge bars. That's what I did. All right, the other thing that I did in mail merge is I added this add data source. I added that button. You'll see in the code that all I'm doing is I'm creating a data set, and then the important bits. On the document, there's a mail merge data source and a mail merge data member. All right, let's run it now so you can see what I've done there. So let's load this. Let's go to mail merge and let's click on add data source. Notice that it's there as well as the relationships. So let me show you how to do a mail merge. So I'll go to mail merge design view, and I am going to do, let's just do 2 rows, and I'm going to set this as the header. I'm sorry, as the detail band. Well, it's not a band, but it's a detail section. I'm going to drop category name in here, and I'm going to drop description over here, and I'm going to give it some space to breathe. All right, so let's do a preview here. Notice, booyah. Master detail, you say? No problem, I say. I've created a detail level there. And the data member is obviously going to be the category products. So we've done that, and now I can drop product name into here. And when I go mail merge preview, kapow. What? Isn't that fantastic? Yes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset and take stuff out. Because the thing about spreadsheets that we all love is that spreadsheets, you know, are fairly interesting. So I'm going to go to detail here. Let's see. Product. Well, we'll set the detail here. In this top one, I'm going to put the picture. We're going to make it a little bit bigger so the picture fits. Okay, so there's the picture. Then I'm going to drop the category name here and the description here. So let's go to Mail Merge Preview, and you'll see that we repeat in sort of a nice sort of way. Let me add a insert a column, and let me change the detail to this, right? Because we want the name, and then we want the description here, so we can show it. Okay, so we'll make that a little bit bigger. We'll bold these guys, Control B. Let me change the document orientation to horizontal. What? Crazy talk. No, it's not. You see that? Now we can sort of repeat going to the right. Isn't that fantastic? So now the spreadsheets that everyone abuses in your organization, we can abuse even more with databases. Thank you very much. Notice I showed you master detail. I also showed you document orientation. You can also do headers, footers, filters. Yeah, I think it's wonderful. All right. I'll take some questions. Wait, let me check my time. No, I will not take questions.
So,
sorry, can't take questions. I want to. By the way, we will stop the recording after an hour, but I will take questions for as long as you want afterwards. So let me make that deal with you. All right, time to go to dashboards. Let me go to Setup Startup Project. And what I've done is I've created this, right? This is something you've probably seen before. Drag, drop. I added this preview button. This preview button shows a preview, and this preview just opens the viewer, which is this blank thing that shows full screen and has an escape button. That's really all that is. You can see here in the show preview, I do a deep copy and then load that dashboard into the viewer. I also have a little timer in there so that if there's a problem, it will save. Every minute or so, it will save this dashboard that I'm working on. So if anything goes wrong, I can load it up again. All right, so let me go here and let me go open containing folder because I need to remove the bin and the object. Oh, looks like it won't let me remove the bin. So the debug and release. Oh, it won't let me do it. So let me go to debug and let me remove the scratch. Okay. All right, so now let me run it. Here is our dashboard product. Let's talk first off about server mode. So server mode is here. By the way, this is all self-contained stuff. Let me go ahead and connect to our DX support database. So DX support. Next, we're going to connect to our SQL Express, and we're going to choose our DX support database. This is supposed to be a number of tickets that were created by customers, issues. So the way it works is they create issues, and there's entries for each issue, kind of like our support center. I'm not going to open the query designer, but here you go. So let me dive right into some of the things we've done with our GeoPoint map. So by the way, let me change this to tickets by region apply. So there is that. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the caption. Okay, so let's move this over. By the way, that's the toast notification that it's just every minute it's going to auto save. So by the way, I did use toast notifications. They're fantastic. So now I'm going to go to latitude and longitude. And what I'm going to do is I am going to drop issue ID, but we're going to do the count of it. Okay? So notice that when you're looking at this, it stinks. We did exactly what you said, right? We put everything there. But notice that this is not a very useful representation. So now, well, by the way, let me step back. Server mode is here. Push the button. You get server mode goodness. It's set by default in 14.1. All the queries are pushed back to the actual data source. There. So the next thing I want to talk about is some of the enhancements we've done to GeoPoint map. Okay, so let's go to data. And let me show you this Enable Clustering button. This is new. Notice what happens when I do that. Notice that we've clustered everything in there automatically. So let me change this to total tickets. Let me just change it to tickets so I don't get that. So notice that in this area we have 1.31K tickets. Let me zoom in. You see that? We are a lot smarter about what it is that we show. Once it goes to this, we know that it's just 1 point. This allows you to sort of look at data the right way. Let me go to full extent here so you can see it. That's enable clustering. Let's go to bubbles now. So this is a new feature, also the convert to. So we're going to convert to a bubble map. Notice that the number of tickets there can show up, but then when you get to design, we have this thing called a weighted legend. I'm going to put it to the bottom left. Notice that there's two ways to do that. There's linear, and then there's nested. I love the nested one. It gives you sort of a feeling for the bubble size. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and add how many, sort of the average time that it took. No, I don't want to do average time. Let's do total entries on the sum, and that's going to tell you how many entries happened in that particular region for sum. But this color doesn't make any sense, so let's show the legend, and let me put it to the bottom right. So now you can see a number of dimensions. First of all, just the fact that we placed this over a map, that's 2 dimensions. Now we're adding an aggregation of tickets. So now we're up to 1, 2, 3, and now we're adding entries. That's 4 dimensions that we're visualizing all at the same time, plus 5 if you count clustering, which sort of does an automatic aggregation. So we're looking at 5 dimensions here all at once. Let me zoom in. You're going to start to see the legend change over here. It looks like the total amount of entries, biggest area has to be over here. And then as I start to zoom in, you're going to see where the sort of the concentration of problems lies. Isn't that fantastic? Yes, it is. Finally, let's go to bubbles. So I'm sorry, pi. So I'm going to take this out because this is the total number of tickets. But what I'm going to do on the arguments is I'm going to drop issue type. What? Notice that now you have pie charts over this, and we are again looking at about 5 dimensions all at once. Okay, any questions about, well, no questions. I can't take any questions. The last thing I want to do is I want to motivate, yes, so let's save this on my desktop as my, I guess before I do that, let me restart it. I'm not going to have to rebuild it, ladies and gents, and the reason why is because I did that automatic auto-saving, right? Isn't that cool, by the way, that I built that? I know, right? I love building code. Let me go to chart here. Let me put this over here, and let's build a chart by country. So argument, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do issue ID count. And we're going to change the names here to tickets. And I'm going to say OK, and we're going to take this show caption off, and then we'll do a little transpose action. Oops. What did I just do? Oh, I moved it to series. I wanted to do it to country. So now what I'm going to do is oh, that's not what I wanted to do. So let me go over here to let me go here to design real quick. Let me go to the y-axis setting and change this to tickets. So you can see that is there. Let's go to edit names as well. We've got that changed. Here are the options that are new. You can plot secondary axis. You can show point labels. Notice that I've done that there. You can do an orientation, and you can do a position for them if you want. I'll put them inside like so. Let me F5 this so you can get a feel for what this looks like. That's the initial extent. I don't want to do that. Let's do full extent here. So that's what's saved. Edit names. Tickets. It looks like when I changed it, it sort of went to the default. And so now what I can do is I can save this as, and on our desktop we're going to save it as our map dashboard. Again, yes, we will replace it. Done. Okay, let me close that and let me motivate API enhancements. So let me go to the events for the actual, go to the events. And I want to go to grouped. If I go over to miscellaneous, you're going to see a number of events that are new. So let's just do, for example, a dashboard item click. And let me show you what you get. You can get the item name. You can get the underlying data that is in there. You can get the access points from there. For example, you can even get which access you want to do it for. That's pretty important when it comes to, like, for example, the pivot. You can get deltas, measures, slice, underlying data. I mean, you can get anything you want to do anything you want. And what I'll do is, let me try this. I did have some problems with an earlier build. Let's see if we fixed it. Let's go to initial full extent here, and let's F5 this. Boom. Notice that we're in the event, and we can say data. I think I can do a quick watch on this. No, let me edit this. Okay, so notice that you have the data. You can map it. You can do whatever you want. You can open another dashboard element. You can pretty much do. You can open another dashboard. You can pretty much do whatever you want. And I think that's the coolest part of it. Okay. So we'll save this to map dashboard. Yes, I do. Finally, let's see how much time I have. I have 3 minutes to make an MVC Dashboard Viewer. So hold on to your pants, people. I'm going to do it super fast. So we're going to right-click. We're going to add a new. Project. This is going to be the DevExpress template gallery. We're going to call it the MVC Viewer here, and I'm going to hit OK. We're going to use a web application. Yeah, that's what I want. And then I'll call it MVC Viewer. I'll hit Run Wizard. We're going to do standard here, and I'll hit Create Project. And it's going to load up all of the sort of MVC-ness. Now, this is going to take longer than me writing the thing, dang it. I have 2 minutes. I guess I'll take a question now, Amanda, while it's doing its work.
Can I use Google Maps from Eduardo?
No. And the reason why is because there is a tremendously screwy licensing fee that we'd have to pay. Notice that you can use whatever shape file you want, and our map control in general has the ability to pull tiles from wherever you want. For example, Bing or OpenStreet. Google, not yet, because, I mean, we still have to work through other issues. I'll take one more.
Will the dashboard API be available for the ASPX Dashboard Viewer?
Yes, I think so. Send me an email. I haven't played with it yet. I've spent most of my time on the client side, but yes, you can. And in fact, let me see here. Demo Center. There might be in our dashboard, sample dashboards web. I think it's in here. Sales, human resources. I'll get back to you on that. I'm pretty sure it is. Let me click on something. It's not enabled for this. Notice that the filtering is. Sales detail. You'll have to look at this. I think it is, but I'll have to get back to you. Good question. Oh, yes, it is. Okay, good. So here is a sales detail. Notice that when I click on the bike, I double click on the bike one, you'll see that we have sort of the data coming in from there as well. Notice that, by the way, this is a fantastic demo. Good question. So it is available on the web. All right, so I'm hoping by now, yes, the project is done. So I'm going to go to I'm going to go to Window. I'm going to close all the documents, and now I'm going to start to add some items to the actual views. So let's go to Views. Let's go to Home, and on the index.cshtml, I'm going to take this out because got it. Right click, and we have this really cool Insert DevExpress MVC extension that lets you add extensions. Because adding extensions is a little difficult because when you go from web forms to MVC, you're going from like automatic to stick shift. And so what we've done is we've created this really cool wizard to sort of help you do that. It's going to add all of the necessary things, and it's going to let you sort of. It's pretty cool. It's still working on it. But it's actually going to add everything that you want, including the controller action methods, etc. So there is the addition. The other thing we need to do is under shared. You recall that we have a bunch of style sheets, so we need to add one for the dashboard viewer here. And then there's also, by the way, if you look at it, notice that how we add the style sheets, etc. But there's also this requirement for the actual script, so I will put those there. And then finally, we need to provide a dashboard. So I need to go over here, right-click, and I'm going to add an existing item. This existing item is obviously on my desktop, and I think we called it Map Dashboard. So let's hit Add. There it is. Now let's go to the controller in the Home controller. And notice that we have this sort of, we've created this static class to sort of return a model. And this is, we're returning a dashboard source model. So let me remove this type qualifier. And let me just to make it easier, we're going to say model, dashboard source equals, and I think we need to just do front slash, I think it was, map dashboard.xml. Very good. Notice that you can also sort of burn this in, but we created this class just to make it a little bit easier. You know what I'm saying? Just so now this looks a lot nicer. Okay, now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the dashboard partial just to show you what we've done. So let's go to the views. Let's go to dashboard viewer partial. There's a number of settings that you can set as well. I'm going to set another one. I think it's full screen mode equals true, so we get the full effect. All right, I finished. Pretty simple, wasn't it? Not as hard as I thought it would be. Let's hope that it works. All right. It's loading. We'll give it a second while it's loading. Amanda, while it's loading, any questions?
Yes. I'm trying to find one that might be quick.
Why don't you keep looking for those, and I'll show you that this is actually working the way we want it to.
Perfect.
See that? I mean, this is fantastical. I love it. All right. So that brings me to the all-important thank you slide. All right, thank you. Looks like I got through everything. 4 minutes over, if that's okay. That is sort of a quick tour around some of the new things. Obviously, there's a lot more stuff, but we just don't have time to show you all of it. I wanted to sort of give you the highlight versions. Again, thank you for watching. I will now take questions for as long as Amanda lets me. All right, Amanda.
All right, so I'm going to go back to the beginning.
Okay.
From Mike, I don't know if you can see these questions, Seth, but he has a pretty long one about, can we create reports with multiple sections and sub-reports?
Yes, but what I would tell you is that uh, you can do it, no question. But my suggestion is to be a little bit smarter about how you do it. Reports, and I'm going to use a word that's kind of like a bad word in my house. Reports are dumb. What I mean by that is that they will work on the data you give them in the shape that you give it to them. Now, clearly, you can do some custom formatting, you can do expressions, you can do calculated fields, you can do nesting of bands. I mean, so it is fairly smart, but the less you give it to think about, the more speed you'll be able to squeeze out of the reports. So the answer is yes. But my suggestion, I think it was Mike, is to pre-shape your data, then give it to the report. Would be much faster, save a lot of headaches. And pretty much just leave to the report everything that has to do with the layout and the presentation of the actual report. And then you'll be better served by that. That's just me coming from this is me answering in a technical way. Let me answer in the marketing way. Yes, you can, and it's fantastic. All right, next question.
Does this version have support for temporary tables in SQL?
If you can map to it, you can probably use it in reports. Another answer to that question is if you can map to it in code, you can map to it to our reporting suite. Great question. Anything else?
Yes. How you showed how to configure a connection. Real world would often require us to be on different machines. How do we make it configurable for our client's machine?
So if you're using the end user report designer, you can actually subvert the entire process yourself, and you'll be able to provide connection strings a priori. Hopefully, once we get the wizard sort of done and shipping, you'll be able to even, I'm guessing, pre-give it a connection string to use that suits the client's needs. Good question.
Will the views understand the smart conditioning you demonstrated earlier?
I guess I don't understand is it reporting views? So let me answer it this way. So if you're using a SQL view and you map it to our reporting suite, after the data gets to our reports, it's all the same thing. So that's when I talk about data inside of a report, I'm talking about swappable data. So you can do whatever you want, get it from any data source you want. Once it gets to the report, all of the features and functionality that I demonstrated will work the same way. All right. Any other questions?
We are using DevExpress reports in ASP.NET. Is it possible to allow our users to modify the reports through the web?
Man, I'm guessing you showed up late. Yeah, I actually showed you how to work the web end user designer that's now a community technology preview. So circle back and watch this video. I'll probably make a video just to show you how to use it sometime this week. But yeah, you can, but with the exception of there's a couple of exceptions. In fact, let me bring that up. So devexpress.com/Seth. There is a not this one, not this one, not this one. Man, here it is. I've been writing a lot of blog posts. This blog post right here will sort of give you a good feeling for what's in and what's out. I just pasted it in the chat window. So, for example, I think I even name it "What's Out," right, and why we left out, and then some of the missing controls. So there you go. This will help you out with that. All right, next question.
From AJ, if I'm using two views, can extra reports find the join condition?
If you're using here's the thing. If you're using our wizard, like I showed you before, and the fields match, the answer is yes. If not, you can manage it yourself. I mean, It's not a difficult. Let me stop this here. It's not really a difficult proposition to manage that yourself. Let me go to the product report again. Let me go to the report explorer. We have this really cool thing called the manage relations. You can totally map it yourself. If it doesn't find it, you find the columns and you map them. So it's literally seconds if it doesn't find it. The reason why I found it here is because the names are very similar. Great question.
From Fernando, can I do pies showing 2 decimals in the web dashboard?
Sure, why not? Great question. That's easy. I mean, I think so. Now I'm like kind of questioning myself, because if you're asking that, you must have tried it. If you haven't tried it, then yes. If you have tried it, it doesn't work, let me know. I'll fix it. Okay, next question.
Can you use the spreadsheet in web reporting? From Fred.
I don't think we have mail merge in the spreadsheet reporting. Let me take a look here. I just drew a blank. Oh, demos.devexpress.com. Man, I just had a brain freeze. Did you feel that too? Woo! Where is our, okay, view ASP.NET demos, ASP.NET launch demo. Let's scroll down to the, I'm just checking to see if they've added the mail merge ribbon. I don't think it's going to be in there, to be quite honest with you, but it's always good to look. Where is our, there it is, spreadsheet. See demo. No, it's not in there. Not yet, at least, but we're working on stuff. All right, Amanda, next question. No more questions.
Oh, I was muted. We didn't see anything you just did because I think your screen was paused. I'm not sure.
Oh, thank you. It was paused. So, notice here that I brought up the spreadsheet. I don't see the mail merge in there, and I suspect it's not in there. That's my answer. Okay, next question.
Does XLS mail merge require a document server license?
No. But it will require a doc server license if it's only going to be happening on the server. Can I also just go to our buy section? And then we'll compare features and pricing. So look, our document generation here is for spreadsheet automation. In your WinForms, you are going to get the spreadsheet control. Do you see that? And so what I showed you was the WinForms version. If you're going to be doing this stuff on the server without UI interaction, then you'd need to use document generation. Good question. Next question.
From Vernon. Are the reports stored as separate files so that you don't have to rebuild, redistribute your application for a report revision?
You can do that yourself. When we talk about report revisions, our report server, which is an end user product, stores report revisions. If you are building your own application with our classes, you can actually store the layout either to XML or to bits or to whatever, and you can store those separately. So the report, it consists of the layout file, and then you hydrate the layout file by pulling in the layout file into an extra report class. Then you pull the data to hydrate the actual, fill in the actual layout, and then you show the report. So you can store these however you like. And you can store revisions however you like. Good question. Next question.
Can we have the source code of today's sample?
Oh, man, everyone always asks me for that.
I know.
I can only give it to you if you have a universe. Well, no, I can give it to you. Let me look. How about we do this? Is there anything in here that I'm doing that I can't give you? Yeah, this icon that I used, I can't give you. So that's the only thing. So I'll just have to change this icon, and then I'll give it to you. Yes.
From Alexander, this is an
yep. Sorry, caveat. This is very important, okay? What I've made here, let me set this as the startup solution, particularly for Dashboard and Excel. What I've made here is a standalone dashboard editor and viewer, okay? You are not allowed to sell this. It is in complete violation of our end user license agreement. So, like for example, this here, if I were just to, this would allow me to edit and view dashboards. Look, I just pressed F5 all day, all night. The problem here is you're not allowed to sell this because it would be in competition with our products. So the question might be, well, what am I allowed to do with this? Well, for example, if this is tied directly into your particular business, so you want to do dashboards, but you're only going to do dashboards that belong to your data with your data source, then that is fine. So if, for example, you're a car dealership developer and you're going to build an end-user designer to allow your salespeople to customize dashboards for car sales, perfectly legit. If you take this code that I'm going to let you download, and you distribute it and sell just what I just built, total violation. Will find you. Amanda will find you. She will look through your window and swear at you in the middle of the night. It's pretty scary.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully that helps. But I like I'm saying, this is so powerful that we could probably. I'm going to talk to my boss. We could literally sell this as is. Right? I mean, it's pretty cool. All right, so I needed to spit that out because when I set this when I deliver this code, I don't want to find anybody like selling what I just built. It's just not possible. Okay. Next question.
Everyone's asking how they can get the code. Are you going to do a blog post or? Yeah,
I'll do a blog post. Good call, Amanda. Will you get retentive on me and make sure that I do that?
Yeah, guaranteed.
Yes. By the way, isn't that autosave really cool? All right, Amanda doesn't think so. Everyone else does, Amanda. Fine. All right.
From AJ, how can I hide the sections of reports?
Like, I'm guessing you mean hide them. I don't know what you mean, but the easiest thing to talk about is when you go to detail, you can actually change visibility to false. You can also, when you're doing formatting rules, in the formatting rules sheet, you can add this and you can set visibility to false under specific conditions. Usually data related conditions.
like the detail header. This is example.
If you want to hide it, literally just go and you can set visibility to false. Visibility to visible to false, yes. Good question. Next question.
From Alexander, when designing a dashboard in OLAP, and I see it from a viewer in ASP.NET, we have problems with the publication in IIS. The dashboard is not able to connect to IIS. What is the correct way to publish a dashboard in OLAP?
So if you mean with OLAP, here's the thing that you need to remember. Because I do things really magically here, and everyone's like, oh, that's so magical. But when you are connecting to anything, remember that it is IIS that controls the thread that's connecting. So if you're using SSPI for the connection, or you're using a trusted connection, in other words, what's going to happen is the thread that IIS is running, those are the credentials that are going to be passed back. So if IIS cannot connect to the OLAP server, that means that the credentials are not specific enough. I would use a username and password to do that. Give it a try. If that doesn't work, send me an email or do something. Do a support ticket and then send me the ID, and I'll follow up with that because maybe there's something that we did wrong. But my guess is that you're using a trusted authentication or SSPI authentication, and IIS, it probably runs under either network service or some other user. and that user is not trusted by the OLAP server. Good question. Next question.
From Mark, he says, stupid question. How is report executed as a web page?
Not a stupid question at all. Do you mean like this thing? How does it pull it? I'll let him think about that. Maybe it's such a good question. I don't even know how to answer it. Let me reply
Yes.
by this.
He says yes.
Okay, so what happens is the document viewer will create an instance of this report, and then it will call create document. Sometimes, just because of the way the event model works in ASP.NET, sometimes it's just called twice. And so another way to do it is to go into code. I won't detail it here. I won't do it. But sometimes it's better to go into code and say ASPX document viewer one doc. I think it's document, or is it report? Report equals, and then what you can do is you can stuff a report in there. So for example, new. I think it was product report. I think products report. Products report. You can do this as well. The benefit of doing this is then you can sort of lift this guy, and what you can do is you can store this. I'm having spelling issues. You can store this for speed in the cache. So you can say cache report equals report, right? And then what I can do is I can say if report, cache report equals null, then I can do this. There is code issues happening everywhere, and now I can just say extra report, do a little unboxing for Christmas. Right, and so now what's going to happen, I guess I did end up writing the whole code. Don't get a programmer started. They won't finish. Now what's going to happen when I load this report, let me set this as the startup project, is that every time now I load this report up again, it's going to pull it from cache. It should be much faster too. Uh-oh, looks like I have a problem. Something I forgot to create the document or something, but this is the general idea. I didn't get it to work all the way, so I apologize for that. So I'll just say report.create document, and as I run it, I'll take the next question because maybe this won't work right away, but we'll give it a try. All right, next question.
How does subreport work for layout saving? Do you save as embed in main report?
There are two ways that you can do it, but the right way is it's actually two reports. There's actually two layouts, and so you're actually working with two different layouts. That's why I advise against using subreports. If you can help it. There's obviously times where you can't help it, particularly when you have data varying both horizontally and vertically at the same time. Then you are going to need subreports, but generally you can get away without using them because you have to work with two different layouts. Good question.
From Eduardo, what is the difference between the ASPX document viewer and the ASPX report viewer?
One is in our control. Don't use it. I guess, are you talking about this? This, notice just right away by the color, you know this has got to suck. I'm just kidding. This isn't being recorded, is it? No, but this is using different reporting. It's probably it's connecting to SSRS. This connects to our stuff. Good question.
Sorry, Mark wants to just clarify. If he understands correctly, you design then reference in a separate ASPX page, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Um,
Any other questions?
yeah. I used the ASPX Dashboard Viewer and was wondering if there is now a way to display the current parameter values on the viewer or the ASPX page containing the viewer.
It's already shown. Let me actually load up the. It should already be shown. Let me go here and let me go to DevExpress. I know what I'll do. I'll go to the Demo Center again. We'll load up the dashboards here, and this is Sample Dashboards Web. Come on, clicky thing. Yeah, it should be there. The parameter value should already be there. Let me close this here. Where is clicky? For some reason, it's not loading. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to demos.devexpress.com, and hopefully we'll have better luck there. That was my special song for you, Amanda. Yeah, you're welcome. Hey. All right, so let's go to ASP.NET, Spreadsheet, spell checker. Come on. Where is it? Everyone keeps moving stuff around on me. We don't want Spreadsheet. Yeah, I think it is in there. Just if it's not, give me a ring and I'll try to figure it out. So devexpress.com. Will you queue up the next question while I go and find this?
Yeah, I got it. You want me to give it to you?
Hold on, wait. I might have found it. I don't know if these have parameters, so I'm not going to be able to give you a definitive answer. But the key answer is up here. You will usually see up in this area what's sort of been set by way parameters. So you should see it up there. All right, next question.
Is there drill down capability within the report previewer? For example, with a master detail report, initially show the master rows collapsed and then drill into details one by one.
Yes, but here's my suggestion. Extra Reports is optimized for printing out on a piece of paper. So you can't click on a piece of paper. Having said that, you can, in Reports, have a click event on the previewer. Right? So what you would do is you would be able to set visibility of the other bands when you click on it to true or false, depending on what's going on. You can also toggle the visibility of that. Now, you're saying, well, why would I not want to do that? Well, because you have to re-render the entire report. Right, because this thing is happening on the way we've optimized it is on a piece of paper, so we're really fast about showing the data as quickly as possible. But when you click on it and you've unhidden it, right, you have to go back and re-render the report because we need to recalculate pages, right? In order to do that, we need to rebind, and so it's slower. So my suggestion would be if you're going to be doing a lot of interactive stuff, use a dashboard. That's what it's there for. It's for interactivity. Good question. Next question.
For Michael, can dashboards be used on smartphones or should we use DevExtreme instead?
So if you're talking about phones, my suggestion is that you use our I would use DevExtreme because it's more optimized and you have to be more careful about how you do things. So let me answer it two ways. If you're on a tablet, yes, use our dashboard. Perfect. If you're on a phone, no, because it's going to try to squish everything in, and that's not what you want. Generally, you can only have one visualization. Let's just say it's straight up this way. You can have one visualization per row, and then you'll have to scroll. If you're in horizontal position, then you can have maybe one visualization. Again, it's just one visualization either per row or per column. And so your best bet is to actually be more deliberate about how you customize that. That's not to say that we won't be more deliberate about how we lay out the dashboard in the future, but for now, I would use this. In fact, all of our data visualization tools, when we render the dashboard, we're actually using DevExtreme Mobile to do it, at least the data visualization parts. Good question. Any other questions?
Yes. Is there any restriction on the number of data sources that I can set up with the dashboard?
No. In fact, can I one-up that question and show you that if you go to, let's go to reports here, Win Dashboard, set a start. The other thing that's pretty interesting, there, this is loaded up, is we have this notion of cross-data source filtering, where filtering can affect dashboard elements that have been bound to separate data sources. And so we can even do more than that. We can actually have those separate data sources interact visually. Good question.
Let's see, from Fernando. In the web version of this demo, in the full screen web version of this demo, there's no show values?
Not sure what they mean by that. I'd ask them to clarify if that's okay. Next question.
I think we did that one. Somebody asked, any new features for the end user designer?
Yes. Yeah, in fact, the end user designer now natively uses that new data wizard that I showed before. So yeah, so we're also going to be working on this release, making it more friendly. I'm committed to making the end user designer less a developer tool and more your CEO Sally's tool, so that she can do whatever she wants. Or maybe if Bill is so interested in like the right shade of red, then Bill can change it, and we'll let him. So we're working on that.
CEO Sally.
Sally is like a fantastic CEO's name. Bill is the one that always cares about color because he's weird. All right.
Can I do sample SQL with stored procedures with parameters output?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Can extra reports now print on the entire page, like at location 00 of the top part of the page from an up?
It depends, right? I mean, the best way to actually do that, if you want to do that, is maybe one of the things is we now have this way of actually embedding like a whole, like say you have a specific layout that you want. What you can do is you can create an image that has everything in there that you want, like your particular logo and your particular anythings, like just like your stationery, and you can set it as the background of this, and while you edit, you can actually put things exactly where you want them. So yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
But we don't have like a page mode. We don't have that. But you can use that, what I've showed you, to be even better and more precise. Next question.
All right, 2 more questions since we're way over time. Are there any new features related to multiple column reports from Ilya?
I don't know what you mean by multiple columns. Like, notice that this already has 2 columns. I'm guessing maybe you mean, let me go to this. I'm guessing you mean something having to do with, where is it? There's a way to do columns, but what happens is it blanks this out, and then the columns sort of go back and forth. So you can totally do that. But beyond that, I'm not sure what you mean. So I'd have to get more. You have to get back.
They say Ilya says yes.
Yeah. So we do have the ability to do that. I'm for some reason I'm not finding. There it is. These are the multi-column options. You can change the column count, etc., to make things fit a little bit better. And we also have a mode for using column count versus column width. Okay, one more question?
Well, might as well. Here we go. Is there any dashboard viewer in WPF, or how do I use dashboards in WPF?
We do not have a dashboard viewer in WPF quite yet. It is something that we are certainly interested in making. If you want to use it right now, just add a win form and then add a form, and then you can use a viewer that way. There is something about licensing that I saw. Let me answer that question because I think it's important. Just about reselling the dashboard, the Expand framework has a dashboard designer. I am assuming it is okay to sell that with my application? Yes, but notice that the dashboard designer that you're using will only connect to the data that is available in your base module. Right? It's not like a generic, like, here is a dashboard builder that I'm going to sell. Right? And so that's the difference. So that's a really good question to differentiate between the two things. So Rakesh says, thanks for answering. Just clarify, it shows filters up by the title. Have not seen report params. In 13.9, I'll recheck again. If not, send me an email and we'll put that in because that shouldn't be a hard thing to do. All right, Amanda, thank you so much for your help. Again, thanks for everyone who showed up. Thanks for coming. Any other questions, you can always reach me at sethj@devexpress.com. In fact, I will put the slide up so you can see it. And you can always reach me at Twitter at Seth Juarez. All right, Amanda, back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Seth. All right, that's it for this one. We have more Launch 14.1 webinars coming up this week. Tomorrow is What's New in ASP.NET with our Web Program Manager, Mehul Harry, and DevExtreme 14.1 on Friday with CTO Julian Bucknell, both at our regularly scheduled time at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And just a reminder, when you do leave this webinar, you will see that short survey. Please take a second to comment. We appreciate it. All right, so thanks to Seth. Thank you all for joining us. And of course, thank you for choosing DevExpress. Bye-bye.